Character is James Reese from Terminal List. James Reese was a Navy SEAL who was ostracized from the military after his whole platoon was murdered in Syria due to an inside job. Unbeknownst to him, though, they were murdered by the U.S. because of the brain tumors the U.S. had inflicted on their own soldiers, so they wanted to get rid of them silently to make it look like the Syrians killed them. He also had a wife and daughter who was also killed by assassins because James Reese was becoming too much of a problem. The death of his friends contributes heavily to his mental illness and the death of his daughter and wife. And his military background ultimately leads to violence throughout the series. I diagnosed him with PTSD. As a SEAL, the stigma surrounding PTSD would probably make him seem weak in the eyes of his fellow SEALs. Many soldiers fear the loss of opportunities, security clearances, or adverse judgment by their peers. However, veterans have access to these resources, but usually have a lower rate of accessing them due to these kind of stigmas. However, I think we have made steps to raising awareness about PTSD, especially compared to other wars like World War II, where famously, I believe it was General Patton told a soldier to basically stop being a wuss and told him to keep fighting, even though he was heavily suffering from PTSD. Um, James Reese in the show never sought a therapist because he was on the run for most of the show. The whole U.S. government was out on the hunt for him. But if he did go to a therapist, they would probably agree that it was PTSD because it is a prominent mental illness among service members, especially if something traumatic like your whole platoon getting murdered. Uh, it's very traumatic, so I think it would contribute to PTSD. And I think PTSD is prevalently found in any culture because war is like this universal thing that has happened to a lot of people or a lot of service members at least. So I think definitely PTSD is recognized among many cultures. In the show, he has very bad memory problems combined with flashbacks. Like for example, the first day back, he was sleeping and he had a dream about the event that happened of all of them getting murdered in like a tunnel. And he woke up and was very distraught because he was going through it back in his mind. And throughout the show, his past and his present was like blurring together, and he was seeing things from the past happening in the present that wasn't supposed to happen. Also, he was very jumpy and very violent. He took out he killed a lot of people who were responsible for the death of his platoon. So this kind of outlash and anger is definitely a sign of PTSD. He also has a very hard time of trusting others and tries to deal with his problems by himself. He carries a very negative emotional state, feelings of horror and anger for everything that's happened. So yeah, he experiences many of the symptoms described by the DSM. However, he doesn't show losing interest in hobbies because he's not really focused on that right now. He's more focused on getting revenge on the people who hurt his friends and family. I think a lot of talk therapies are the most effective, like cognitive processing therapy. There's some group therapies where it would help hear experiences from other service members because, it shows you that you're not alone, which I think is very good for these members to have. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing and prolonged exposure. Basically, they kind of re re try to remember those experiences so that they over time learn how to deal with them. There's also several kinds of medication like paroxetine, sertraline, venlafaxine that can help diminish those effects of anger and hardship and untrustworthiness. However, I think any kind of meditation can cause ethical concerns due to dependence or overdose threats. So as far as broader perspectives go, I think it is an accurate portrayal in the sense of the extreme distress it causes Reese. His reality was blurred several times, and he had several bad dreams that replayed the dramatic event. Even the violence he committed has happened in the past, like the shooter who killed the American sniper. However, I think in the context of James Reese, it was more justified. I think obviously it was blown out of proportion, the amount of people he killed to enact revenge. However, it still shows the want to seek revenge on the trauma that has plagued you.